everyone. Welcome back to Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, back in the basement to talk some Twin Peaks with Xan, my wonderful co-host, Xan Sprouse. Hi, Xan.
Hey, Charles. I'm back in the music room.
You're back in the music room.
Yep.
I'm back in the basement.
Yep.
And, we're trying to get this thing done tonight. It seems we're having difficulties tonight.
Yeah, we're having some difficulties. I was in the ER today.
Yeah.
So I
was so sorry to hear that, but I'm glad you're out of the ER because, you know, being in the ER is obviously worse than being out of the ER.
This is very true.
So we're glad to have you out of the ER.
Thank you.
And thank you for being willing to talk about Twin Peaks, even though I've given you several outs tonight. So you don't have to talk Twin Peaks tonight. You can go get some rest.
Twin Peaks, it cures what ails you.
It does. Especially since we're going to talk about the James Hurley saga tonight.
James Hurley saga. Exactly.
Episode 51, the infamous James Hurley saga.
The infamous James Hurley saga, yes, which I honestly haven't watched in a long time.
Yeah.
And I have opinions.
Oh, you have opinion. Excellent.
Opinions.
So to kind of set this up a little bit. So you, if I recall correctly, you watched the entire 5 episodes of the James Hurley saga that we're going to discuss. Or did you fast forward like I did?
I fast forwarded through some of it. Okay. I will admit that I did stop for the Thomas Eckhart scenes and for the John Justice Wheeler scenes.
We're going to save those. Yeah. We're going to talk about those at a later date.
Like Billy Zane and David Warner. I can't help it.
That's an interesting combo to put together. Billy Zane and David Warner.
Yeah, I'm the only person who watched Titanic and was excited for the villains.
I still say that Billy Zane would make a great Lex Luthor someday.
He would. He would, definitely. He's got that...
He can do the smarmy really well, as he proved in Titanic.
Yeah, he can do the smarmy, and he can do sarcastic, and he can do ironic comedy.
Right. As
he proved by being Colonel Sanders.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Which was so great. I loved it.
You saw they got RoboCop to be Colonel Sanders.
How excited am I that RoboCop is Colonel Sanders right now?
I watched the little thing. It wasn't that great, to be honest with you.
I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, you loved it?
Ugly boy. I thought it was so funny.
Oh, I must have watched a different thing because it was more like a documentary type thing.
Oh, there were 3 little commercial examples on the thing.
All right, maybe I didn't see the right one then.
The only thing that bothered me about it is that whoever wrote the commercials obviously didn't watch RoboCop.
Yeah.
Because there's one where he brings one of the $10 fill-up or $20 fill-up meals or something. I forget what the bucket of chicken.
And it's just say, I'll buy that for $20 or I'll buy that for $10.
The fact that they didn't do that, I think,
that's a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, that's criminal. But he comes into this family and he says, it is dinner time. You have 20 seconds to comply. And I just wanted to say RoboCop never said that.
Yeah, that was Ed 209.
That was Ed 209.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is my computer's name. I don't know if I ever told you that.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, my computer is silver and black.
Yeah. So like RoboCop colors. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but also red Ed 209 colors. Yes.
Yeah, Ed 209 is more of the gunmetal gray kind of thing. Where I don't know if you ever noticed this, but now on good televisions watching RoboCop, he's sort of like, chromatic. Like he's like kind of purpley.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's sort of multicolored, like those tricked out cars that look like flies,
Okay.
Where they're one color and then they turn and then into the sun and then they're
okay, because it's kind of the metallic paint
exactly.
Depending on how the light hits it and refracts the light.
That's exactly right. So RoboCop has a little more flair.
Oh, okay. He's blinged out.
He's a little bit more blinged out. Yeah.
That's funny. So before we get into our James Hurley saga discussion, I want to kind of update everybody on what we've been doing, because you and I got to see a movie together here a couple weeks ago.
We sure did.
Yep.
And we're probably going to do this throughout the year.
Much to the chagrin of my wife, Lori.
Oh, she's she's probably glad she doesn't have to sit through these movies.
Well, there's that too. Yeah. So I will give you that. Yes.
Exactly.
I'm sure that factors into some of it.
She doesn't have to stay up late and watch these movies with you.
That's right.
You know, I can take that bullet.
but what we do is Xan and I went to the Studio 35 Cinema.
Mm-hmm. Cinema Draft House.
Cinema Draft House. So of course we had the adult partook of the adult beverages.
Mm-hmm.
And yours truly spilled some because he's a klutz, but survived. And we kicked back and we watched David Lynch's Eraserhead, you guys.
As I think we all do sometimes.
Right.
To quote Bruce McCullough again.
Yes.
Yes, we did. The and I can't think of his name off the top of my head. The Emmy Award-winning producer of Night Owl Theater.
Oh yeah, Fritz the Night Owl.
No, not Fritz the Night Owl. The guy who does that with it. It sounds like MacGruber, but it's Magruder. I think I can't think of his name.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
And I
either.
apologize. I'll look you up, sir.
Yeah,
because you're awesome for doing this. He has wanted to do this for a while, and he's doing a director's series.
Yeah.
At the Studio 35 throughout the entire year.
So it looks like he's airing, or at least he was sounding like if the first one did well and maybe the next one did well, then he continued throughout the entire David Lynch catalog.
Exactly. All of the David Lynch theatrical releases. Yeah, right. Yeah,
so we were talking your Elephant Man, we're talking your Blue Velvet, we're talking your Dune, Inland Empire.
We're talking your Wild at Heart.
Mulholland Drive.
Yep.
So
Charles and I have a monthly plan to go see a midnight David Lynch movie throughout the rest of 2019, which is going to be amazing.
We're on a mission from God.
That we are. That we are. And so if you
have you seen the light?
I'm not going to go through that whole list of swears that Jake does for that one.
Yeah, that's
but I could do it. So if you were in the Columbus area,
yes,
check out Studio 35's website or their Facebook page for their director series for dates and times. Next month and they're going in order. So next month will be
Elephant Man, right?
Which will be super cool because I never saw that in the theater. So that'll be interesting. So
I've never sat through that in the big screen either. I've watched it on cable once.
Yeah. So get ready to cry because it's going to be a cry fest because it
stars John Hurt, the war doctor himself.
Yes, exactly. The late great John Hurt.
Yes.
And the amazing Anthony Hopkins.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So and it's basically his first mainstream film.
Yes.
It actually got him some acclaim.
Exactly. It was nominated for. Forget exactly what it was nominated for Oscar-wise, but everybody sort of stopped and took
Didn't he get a Best Director nod for that, or no?
Because
I thought he's had 2 Best Director nods. I could be completely incorrect about.
I have this thing called the internet.
Oh, I remember hearing about that. The kids were talking about that thing.
Talking about the WWs.
The WWWs.
See what it was nominated for.
Yeah.
It was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay.
Okay. I thought it had been
to a screenplay based on material from another medium.
Okay, I thought it had been nominated for something. I couldn't remember what it was.
And Best Director for David Lynch.
Oh, okay. So I was right about that. Excellent.
You were right about that. It was nominated for 2 Oscars.
Hey, I was right about something. First time for everything.
For Best Director 3 times. Once for The Elephant Man, once for Blue Velvet, which I knew, and then once for Mulholland Drive also.
That's right, yeah.
So, but speaking of Blue Velvet.
Yes.
I am very excited.
Yeah.
That Blue Velvet is part of the new releases for March from Criterion. So, and apparently there's going to be 51 extra minutes of...
That's crazy. And so it's a good time for yours truly to finally upgrade from DVD to Blu-ray.
Yeah,
and this is definitely obviously 51 minutes of additional footage is a great excuse to upgrade. Yeah,
it's a great excuse to upgrade, and
it's remastered, I believe. I'm sure
it's Criterion, so it's just going to be gorgeous,
right?
And they sometimes will do a like half off sale in the summertime. So if you don't want to just grab it immediately when it first comes out,
right? If you can afford to be patient.
Yeah, if you can afford to be patient, which I can't. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not March, it's May. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
But I keep hoping they're going to make it through, most of the David Lynch catalog, because Criterion, of course, has done Eraserhead. They did Fire Walk with Me, which, Charles, you and I talked about that DVD set.
Right.
They've done Mulholland Drive.
And I own that Fire Walk with Me set. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. I could not afford to wait on that one either. I pre-ordered it.
Right.
And then now they're doing Blue Velvet, and
I'd be really interested in the Mulholland Drive if they did that one.
They do Mulholland Drive. Yeah, that.
They've already done that one.
Mm-hmm. That one's available.
Well, crap! How'd I miss that?
They also did a.
Never mind then.
A documentary about David Lynch in his early years, and sort of him as a painter. It's called David Lynch: The Art Life, which is really very good. And I picked that up at one of those half off sales,
right?
That Barnes and Noble does with Criterion. So I just keep hoping they're going to add everything and eventually get to his entire catalog, which would be amazing.
That would be.
I was very excited because I get the Criterion newsletter, so I get their in-depth essays about film and their releases. And when I saw that one, I was just like,
you were so excited, and you're like texting me going, "There's a Criterion release!" ! Exclamation mark! Yes. So that was great. Mm-hmm. And I was excited because finally upgrade from DVD. That's perfect. So in David Lynch film related news, and kind of relating to one of his previous films, there was some interesting bit of there's already been some interesting casting for the upcoming Dune remake by Denis Villeneuve and they just announced the casting of David Dastmalchian, who, and if you're obviously a fan of Twin Peaks: The Return, and if you're a fan of this podcast, you probably are a fan of Twin Peaks: The Return. Mm-hmm. He played Pit Boss Warwick, and he was also in Mulholland Drive.
Right.
And he's also, I know him because I'm a big Flash geek. He played Abracadabra on The Flash, and he was also on Gotham recently. And so, very cool actor. And he was in the Ant-Man movies. Uh-huh. And so he turns up in really interesting places.
I have not heard this bit of casting. Who is he going to play?
So, all right, you'll love this one. David Dastmalchian is playing Piter de Vries.
Okay, that's the one I've been waiting for.
And that, obviously, previously played by Brad Dourif.
Yes. Blue Velvet.
That's what I was waiting for.
Yes.
So, yes, Brad Dourif. And so David Dastmalchian, he always has this very creepy look about him, and he can definitely do creepy characters. Mm-hmm. So this works perfectly for me. I'm totally sold on this casting.
I am too. He's very creepy, and he has worked with Denis Villeneuve before. He is in Blade Runner 2049.
You're right. He is. He's
Coco in Blade Runner 2049, who, spoiler alert, dies a very painful death. So
yes, it was.
I've been give him a couple of crazy eyes.
So I'm glad I got to surprise you with that. I thought you already knew that one.
No, I had not seen that yet. So
that just came out like a couple days ago. So I was very geeked about that. I was like, "Ooh, I got to add that into the podcast agenda."
I do really like him in the Ant-Man movies too.
Yeah, he was good.
Man have safe.
He plays this very wistful Russian guy. Yes. Or Estonian, or I'm not sure what he is. I think he's Russian, but he's very funny in it. But very cool character actor. So I'm definitely. So he's obviously going to probably have a very different take than Brad Dourif, but because it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to replicate Brad Dourif.
I don't even think you should try.
I think maybe his daughter could do it, because if she was recently on the BBC America adaptation of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency.
Yeah,
she's in that. Yeah, she's in that. So yeah, Brad Dourif's daughter is in that.
Okay.
But apart from her, it's very tough to get that Brad Dourif vibe. So I'm sure he's going to do his own thing, and that's cool. Mm-hmm. But I'm really liking the casting so far.
So far. Yeah.
Because Jason Momoa, I guess, is going to be Duncan, Idaho.
That's right. Yep, that's what I've heard.
And Josh Brolin is going to be Stilgar. Mm-hmm. So some very interesting casting coming out of this.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. So David Desmalchian is going to be Piter DeVries. That makes me wonder who's going to be Stu for How What. So.
Oh, and we know Stellan Skarsgård is going to be Baron Harkonnen.
Baron Harkonnen, yeah.
Yeah, Baron Harkonnen. So very cool. So those two obviously should have some scenes together.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so that's going to be fun to watch, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. But
I think its release date is like May of 2020, and I'm looking forward to it.
I can't wait. As long as it's going to look gorgeous no matter what, because Denis always makes his films look gorgeous. If you watched Arrival, if you watch Blade Runner 2049, you know it's going to look great.
Yeah, so, he's very good at what he does. So.
Very cinematic director. Mm-hmm. But I just thought I'd mention that. All right. So anything else before we start going into the James Hurley saga? Finally.
Yeah, no, I think that's it.
All right. So this was an interesting little storyline. Mm-hmm. As I lost Zan's picture suddenly, poof, she's gone.
I'll figure that out.
That's all right.
Second.
That's all right. It just kind of threw me for a bit. So this took place over the course of 5 episodes. And so we started, it's from the 11th episode of the 2nd season, starting with Masked Ball, which aired on December 15th, 1990. And it goes all the way through till February 9th of 1991, with the 15th episode, Slaves and Masters. So, and part of that was because, of course, skip weeks and delays by ABC, them shuffling around the schedule, the holiday break, etc. So consequently, this storyline, which could have been wrapped up in about 5 weeks straight, goes on for the better part of 2 months. And I think that probably added to the overall sense that it dragged on a little too long, this storyline. What do you think, Xan?
Yeah, I think it was a little too long. And Charles, I was trying to remember what episode was the last episode before the hiatus because of the first cancellation.
Oh.
Was that the Josie in the...
That might have been, the Condemned Woman, which is the episode I cannot wait to talk about because that was your gateway to Twin Peaks. Yes, it was, and I was watching that with the end of this saga and thinking, like, how I wasn't surprised by how much I became a Wyndham Earle fan. Right. Well, because he was such a compelling villain. So he was such a compelling villain, and I think that was the hiatus. The hiatus episode, but I haven't checked the dates yet on that. Yeah. But there were schedule rearrangements, and I think it was trying to find its feet again after it had done what it had set out to. Twin Peaks had done what it had set out to do initially, which was tell you who killed Laura Palmer. Right. And I just don't know if it. Well, the 14th episode of the 2nd season, Double Play, aired on February 2nd, and then Slaves and Masters aired on the 9th. Mm-hmm. And then The Condemned Woman aired on the 16th. So that's the 3-week stretch, back to back to back. And then, so it must have been like maybe The Condemned Woman was that episode that right after that there was a long hiatus. Yeah, that's what I thought. What's the next episode and what was its air date? I'd have to look that up. I just have what I have down here. That's right. Yeah, I have to check that out too. I haven't if you bear with me, I can look it up really quickly.
That's by talk amongst yourselves.
Yes, yeah. Just don't mind us. We'll just please stand by. Do 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 do. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Okay, so all right, Condemned Woman, and then the next episode aired on you're right, March 28th, 1991. Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's a whole month gap.
That was the cancellation.
Actually, six weeks. Actually,
writing campaign.
Yeah, so actually 6 weeks. So that was a 6-week gap between the episode that you jumped on board, and then the next episode after that, Wounds and Scars. So I get to get hooked. Yes, right before the hiatus.
And not have anything to see. That's good timing on my part, don't you think?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that's probably your punishment for not jumping on board right away.
That's my being late to the party.
Yes. Welcome to the party, pal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. To quote the great Bruce Willis.
You're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Exactly. So basically, what instead of obviously we're not going to go through all 5 episodes here because we would be here forever. So we're just going to hit the actual storyline, which takes place over the course of like 2 or 3 scenes in each episode. Maybe and then like the last couple episodes, they have like 4 scenes in them, and so we'll just cover that. But I do want to kind of acknowledge the guest cast for this storyline. We had Annette McCarthy as Evelyn Marsh, the kind of Black Widow-like character, the one that seduces James. We had Nicholas Love as Malcolm Sloan, and John Apicella, not sure how it's pronounced, as the late, great Jeffrey Marsh. And, of course, Donna plays a factor in the last couple of episodes in the storyline.
Yes, she does. And what's interesting is when I was watching this, I realized that, I kind of felt bad for her. So...
You felt bad for her because she was hung up on a guy that was stupid enough to get into all this trouble, or that just that their romance was doomed, practically?
Well, I kind of felt bad for her because it sort of felt like James was sort of making everything else important except for her.
Right.
And that was, this is weird.
Well, it kind of, this is kind of, I don't want to say it's karmic, but, remember Donna, Xan's back. Hi, Xan.
Yeah, I was losing power on my computer. My computer wasn't charging. So
okay. All right. Well, if you need to shut it off, that's fine.
No, it's fine. It just, okay. I don't know what, I think, you know what happened, I think, is the computer is plugged into a power strip.
Yes.
That the cats step on sometimes.
Oh, yes. When in doubt, blame the cats. Yes.
So I think that, I sometimes kick it also because it's one of those where it's not on the switch is not on the top, it's on the edge.
Right.
So if it gets pushed, it turns off. So it wasn't charging. So
got it.
I don't know what's going on. So I just turned off a bunch of other stuff and figured it out. So.
Hope for the best. All right.
We're good now. We're all fine. All right. Here. How are you?
How are you? Yeah, exactly. Very nice reset. All right. So in this first storyline, or the first episode, Masked Ball, we, of course, are introduced to James speeding down a road on his motorcycle.
Rebel music, which is so cute.
Yes. Yeah, so, I think you could find that on the Twin Peaks Season 2 soundtrack.
It's on Season 2, yeah.
Yeah, by Angelo Badalamenti. That's a pretty cool little riff.
Oh, yeah, it's a great little riff.
Yeah, that's great. So he's kind of cruising down and kind of watching him on that bike down the highway going straight into the camera. Makes me want like a Funko figure of James Hurley on his bike.
That'd be pretty cool.
Would you think that would be cool?
I would like that one, little James
with his shades and his spiked black hair, and yeah.
I love a James Hurley like Funko figure series. One of him on his bike.
Yeah.
And then one of him with his guitar.
Oh yeah, doing the on Just You. And
and then one of them with a broken pencil like this, where he breaks the pencil when he finds out the fluoride dies.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
And then one of him in The Return with his guitar, doing Just You at the Roadhouse.
Oh, that'd be a good variant one.
The nice little four picture series, I think, would be good.
All right, so get on that, Funko.
Come on, Funko.
So James, after writing, pulls into a roadhouse. Not the roadhouse.
Wally's hideout.
Yeah, Wally's hideout.
Yep.
So, and no, it's not Wally Brando. This is Wally with a Llie.
Mm-hmm. Wally Brando is still in utero at this point.
Exactly. He was still a Nirvana album at this point. See what I did there?
I see what you did there.
All right. So he goes in, thinks, okay, I've been riding around. I'm kind of thirsty. Orders beer. Hey, there's a very attractive woman at the bar. Why don't I sit right next to her? I'm sure nothing will happen.
Can I ask a quick question here for a second?
Yes.
How is James ordering a beer? Isn't James like 18, 19 years old?
All right. Now, granted, it's this remote part of the Pacific Northwest, but I don't know what the legal age is in Washington State, but I have to presume it was 21 at this point, right?
Well, I am pretty sure that the drinking age went federal to 21 around 1984.
Okay.
And the reason I think that is because there were those states where you could drink when you were 18.
Yeah.
Or there was the 3-2 beer that was a thing for a while. But I seem to recall that Chris turned 18 the year they knocked it up federally.
I remember you telling me this story, yes.
So I'm pretty sure that it was 21 throughout the country. But James does follow the rule that we all used to say in college, that if you go in and you order alcohol, like you know what you're doing, they'll just give it to you and not card you anyway. So maybe that's what happened.
Or maybe this is just a place he heard about that, like, hey, they won't card you if you go in here.
Who knows? I mean, he is a few hours out of town, like in the middle of nowhere.
Or he just got lucky and they didn't bother carding him.
And we've talked about this before, about how everybody in this town hangs out at the Roadhouse, even the 17-year-old kids.
Yeah.
So
maybe the bar employees, they're like, we don't care.
Just whatever.
Just as long as your money's good, that's all we care about.
Just don't take your face off and eat somebody's neck. That's all I ask of you. That's our only requirement here.
Don't F with me.
Do you want to F with this? No, we don't. We don't want to F with this.
No. But yeah, it's like apparently, Sarah Palmer is banned everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just about.
She makes it difficult for the other patrons. So.
Makes things a little awkward.
Just
at the
awkward.
bar.
Yeah. A little bit awkward.
So this rather attractive woman is named Evelyn Marsh, of course. And hey, they strike up a conversation. They flirt a little bit. And
she's forward with him,
She is, but of course James is like trying to plead Mr. Cool and go right along with it.
Well, he's out on the open road,
He's not rebuffing her interest at all.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's as playfully flirting with her as he is like trying to be nice, because James is very nice. He's very sweet.
Yes.
James is dumb. Sweet.
We've had enough of sweet.
We've had just about enough of sweet. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So.
But this is obviously leads to his downfall, because she asked him to fix her husband's, and I wrote down the name of this, 1948 Jaguar 2.5-liter drop-head coupe Mark IV.
Yes.
That's the kind of roadster that James is tasked with fixing up.
That's JAGW.
Jaguar.
So yes. So it's a 1948 Jag.
Yes.
It's quite a nice looking car. And
very choice.
It is so choice. If you have the means, I highly recommend.
I recommend picking one up.
And to be perfectly honest here, I love driving it. It is so choice.
James puts it up on cinder blocks and tries to roll back the odometer.
We're just going to have to open up the odometer.
We're going to have to crack open the odometer and roll it back by hand. Yep. Exactly.
berserk.
Here's where James goes berserk.
You see all the
all right, we just
met Chicago.
We just mashed up. Yeah, it's James Hurley's day off.
James Hurley's day off. Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking James is probably, he doesn't know where the hell he's going.
No, he's just wandering. Yeah, it's like, well, hey, this is a great town. They give me beer without carding me, and like attractive woman chat me up.
Well, and he obviously needs some money,
right?
Because we find out later when he calls.
Yeah, he needs
Ed Hurley to send him money. He's got like $12 in his savings account. So
yeah, he obviously didn't plan this out very well.
No, he didn't plan this out very well. So
yeah.
I think he's just sort of trying to go where the road takes him and see what kind of money he can make along the way, and
I'm a loner, Donna, a rebel.
Deja vu.
Yeah.
I'm just going to walk the earth, like Cain, and go from place to place, get in adventures.
See, what other podcast can just reference like 3 different movies right in the span of 30 seconds?
Just us, baby.
Just us.
Yep.
So this is why you listen, everybody.
This is why we're here for you.
Exactly. So James, of course, tells Evelyn that he thinks he can fix the car because, hey, he's a mechanic, even though he normally works on bikes.
Mm-hmm.
She tells him that she doesn't know where her husband is and that he travels regularly. Well, thanks for sharing that for whatever reason.
He's not home very often, but he has lots of money. Come stay in my room over my garage and fix his car. That I broke on purpose because we play those kind of games together because we're a completely self-destructive couple. She doesn't say that.
So right off the bat, there's drama.
Mm-hmm.
That James, had he not been thinking with other certain body parts, probably should have paid close attention to.
Like Laura says, James is so sweet, but he's so dumb.
So dumb. Yes.
He is so dumb.
He is so dumb. And this is a perfect example of that, sadly.
Yeah,
so that's basically all we get for that episode. So to be continued next week.
James and Ed have something in common where they wind up trying to be nice to the detriment of themselves.
This is true. Or the fact that they are so nice that they get taken advantage of.
Exactly. Or they can't say no when they should, and they don't say yes when they should. They don't assert themselves when they should.
Yeah. Either
way.
It's the kind of white knight complex.
Something like that. Yeah, that whole Ed's like, well, I made my bed, I guess I'll lie in it,
Right.
And
but it's almost like they're fatalistic about it.
They kind of are. I mean, Ed at least did shoot somebody's eye out. I can understand feeling the guilt.
There's guilt there. Yeah, there's guilt there.
But I don't think you have to be married to somebody for 30 years because of that kind of guilt. But that's just me.
Well, after you get into a rut or routine and you just kind of settle in and accept your fate, I guess, in that sense. I'm guessing that's where
your wife goes crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And then she gets all jacked up on adrenaline and then, breaks her arm or something. So, yeah.
What
or judo flips you in the living room.
I got by a girl.
But who knew that Nadine was just a pioneer for strong, assertive women?
Do you have any idea what a combination of superhuman strength and sexual maturity can result in?
That's probably my favorite Mike quote.
That is the best Mike quote ever in anything ever.
And that's Mike Nelson, not Mike One-Arm Man Mike.
Yes, that is Mike Nelson. Yeah.
That's Mike Nelson.
Mr. Bonehead Boyfriend.
Mr. Bonehead Boyfriend, yeah, exactly.
That's who he is.
So in the second episode, The Black Widow, which aired a whole month later, so we get teased the storyline and then we have to wait a whole month to find out what happens next.
Well, and what's funny too is we get teased with this episode and then we have to wait a month, but this episode also brings up way better storylines.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's much more interesting things going on.
Yeah.
So we will talk about that stuff. We're not just skipping it entirely.
We're just getting this over with.
We're just getting this out of the way.
Yeah.
we watch these segments so you don't have to.
That's what we do for you here on Ghostwood.
This is part of our service.
But we've got other things going on. We know we've got the Josie thing is coming to a head.
We've got the whole we've got the whole Dead Dog Farm saga to talk about.
Dead Dog Farm, where Cooper is being framed for drug trafficking. We've got Benson and Horn is going crazy.
The disappearance of Major Briggs.
Major Briggs has disappeared.
Wyndham Earle starts peeking his head out from under his rock.
Yeah, and somebody's starting to wake up. Leo Johnson's starting to wake up. So, yeah, it's we've got so many other things going on, because the Josie thing, Andrew Packard isn't dead, we find out. Thomas Eckhart comes looking for him. Somebody's killed Jonathan. I'm pretty sure I know who it is. I'm pretty sure there's vicuna on that bullet, too.
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Yeah, seriously. So we've got a lot going on. So not only are we getting teased with this episode, but then we're waiting a couple of weeks for something, but then we have to deal with James just not doing what he should be doing. Like, he should be reading the signs. My father has a hard time with any movie where people are doing shit they're not supposed to do. And and they get in bad situations because they're just making bad decisions. That's hard for him to watch. Like, for example,
I get that totally.
Yeah, for example, my dad's not a big fan of Anne Margaret in the first place, but he can't stand Kitten with a Whip because why does he let her in the house? And that's the thing. It's like, James, why did you go here? This is kind of a crazy thing. Yeah. And
it's like, you don't know this woman.
You don't know this woman.
And she, like I said, and I pointed out, she's already talked about the drama going on with her husband.
Well, and even though there's more drama going on than meets the eye at the beginning,
right?
When Malcolm, the driver, and Evelyn's quote-unquote brother,
right,
come in.
So that's where we kind of pick up in this episode.
Once we go through the plot, we'll talk a little bit about what is and what isn't cliched in the situation. But he comes in and he's like, yeah, they play this game. He beats her up and she breaks his things.
Right.
So it's like, why is he playing a part in that? Like, why is he doing this?
Just dumb. You think it would have been like, okay, that's nice. I'm going to go.
I'm going to note the hell out of this as fast as I possibly can. Seriously.
Yeah, basically, James should have turned into the Homer Simpson meme, or GIF meme, where he fades into the bushes.
And he fades back into the bushes. Yeah, exactly.
Nope. Right underneath an impact font. Yes.
That episode, by the way, that is from the episode Homer Loves Flanders, by the way, just so you know.
Excellent. I expect nothing less from you.
I'm glad I can deliver.
You do. You're definitely my go-to person for Simpsons trivia.
Yep.
That's I'm the Doctor Who trivia. You're the Simpsons trivia. This is how our relationship works.
We both bring things to the table.
We cover our bases.
Exactly. We complement each other's geeky knowledge. Works out well.
Exactly. We fill in each other's gaps. We get introduced to Malcolm, the supposed brother, who is also the chauffeur.
The drunk chauffeur, which is hilarious.
The drunk chauffeur who, if the car is broken down, then he's got no car to drive, right?
So I'm just going to drink.
But presumably he has another car, so it's not like he's rich enough to afford another car, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And basically he says he works for her and for Evelyn and for Jeffrey. And this is where, like you said, he talks about that Jeffrey beats Evelyn up once every week or two, and nobody can stop him.
Well, here's what's interesting about this is that he sort of makes himself out to be this character that, she marries well,
right?
That has a no good drunk brother.
Yeah.
That is probably only employable by her.
Yes.
And so he's there because he's unemployable than anybody else, but he's there to protect her as best he can, is the story that they're going with.
So presumably if James had an IQ above a glass of Kool-Aid, he would have realized, okay, Malcolm, if you're aware of all this, why don't you go to the police?
Well, I'm sure that in this
or why don't you step up and confront Jeffrey?
That's the thing. And so I think that probably it's the same story we've heard before, that small town like this, someone like Jeffrey has a stranglehold on the cops. Or maybe Jeffrey is just too afraid to lose. Maybe they're both just too afraid to lose the money. They have nowhere else to go. there's a bunch of different reasons, but we never really go into that. And I think that's
exactly. And
that's
you think
a flaw in their backstory.
And James should have been asking all these questions and
James
more.
really should have been watching more episodes of Invitation to Love, because I guess something like this would have come up on there. And
see, if he would just watch more Chet on An Invitation to Love.
Oh, Chet would have figured. He would have had this figured out from the get-go. And I think that's one of the
Chet.
One of the biggest problems I have. Yeah, Chet's such a little nerd. Chet is he's like the Charlie of the Return. Charlie is the Chet of the Return.
Oh yeah.
So and I don't. And it's hard right now, too, because we are in such a shift in our culture that we're talking more about domestic violence, and we're not tolerating it as much as we did. It used to be, and even James says to Evelyn, "Why don't you leave?" He's putting it all on Evelyn. It's not like, why doesn't somebody arrest Jeffrey? It's like, why don't you leave? Where it was sort of putting everything onto the victim. And so the culture is a little bit different now than it was back then, but I still think there are a lot of questions that James should have been asking.
Right.
Like, why is he inserting himself into the situation yet not doing anything about it?
Right.
So,
but at least they did bring up the subject of domestic violence, which not a lot of shows were really, apart from like your cop shows or something, weren't really talking about.
True.
I'm sure.
True. And even the ones that talked about it in the right way were things like, Cagney and Lacey, where it was definitely a more female perspective.
Right.
So it's hard to go back and look at these kind of things with a
modern sensibility,
modern mind. With a we're looking at this from
armchair quarterback. Yeah,
exactly. Even something like just to go off subject a little bit, but one of the other stories, that's another side story that's going on in Twin Peaks while the James Hurley saga is going on, is Nadine has gone back to high school and wants to start dating high school boys. And it's like, dude, no! Like, I know it's crazy, but that's still like really illegal.
Yes, slightly.
And he's sort of thinking of it as like this.
Well, at least Ed goes to Dr. Jacoby about it.
He goes to Dr.
or Dr. Hayward. I'm sorry, you're right. It was Dr. Hayward. Yes.
And he's asking about it. It's like, I don't know what to tell her, and it's like, dude,
how about no? You tell her no.
Her grades better or something. Yeah. But that's and these kids need to be like, okay, I don't care what Mrs. Hurley tells you, don't go out with her.
Yes.
But it's become it's talked about a little bit differently than we would talk about it now. And so it's sometimes hard to look at that. But that's I wonder why James is inserting himself in the situation. So
and again, he's so to put it more succinctly, I guess, James is essentially looking for trouble at this point.
He's borrowing trouble for sure.
I mean, he's begging for trouble at least.
Yeah.
So James ends up, he starts tinkering around, of course, starts the Jags engine, and Evelyn gets in the car with him, and then James asked if she's afraid of her husband, and then he kisses her. Mm-hmm. So like just in the second episode, they just met in the previous episode, and they're already kissing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, granted, we don't really have a great idea of how much time's passed here, but it just seems like they just met. Yeah. And already things are accelerating here, literally. Jeffrey, of course, arrives home at that point, and then we cut back later. He's lying awake in his the room they gave him to stay in, and he's listening to Jeffrey shouting and glass crashing, and then drunk Malcolm comes in
and explains that
it's like this has been going on for like years.
He's like, the first time he beat her, I was going to kill him, and so Malcolm is kind of
so he's like, one day I'm going to kill Jeffrey.
Yeah, and that day's going to come up in a few days.
So Malcolm's already threatening to kill Jeffrey. Mm-hmm. Another warning sign that James should have been like, feet don't fail me now.
You are
jump on your bike and ride.
working on his car.
Right.
You don't think that this could maybe go south for you, James?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, so the next morning, James sees Evelyn. She's doing the typical wearing sunglasses, and she's all bruised up and all.
Yeah, we should rocking the black eye.
Yeah, she's got the black eye, and he's trying to get her to leave and maybe go with James, and he doesn't know what to do, and he's trying to do what he can. He calls Big Ed and says, "I need what's in my savings account." And Big Ed's like, "There's only $12 in there, James." So James has really no good way to help her. The money is all Jeffrey's, so there's really nowhere to go. And then, so at
this point he confides to her about what happened with Laura.
About what happened with Laura, what happened with Maddie,
and it's just like, I just wanted to run away from Twin Peaks. Get away.
James just sort of feels that everything he touches turns bad.
Right, and Evelyn is just like, excellent.
Excellent, yes.
All Mr. Burns tapping the fingers. And so she's kissing him, just like, oh, hey, baby, like, it'll be okay, and you're here with me now, and it's all good.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
And I need your help. You could stay here and protect me.
Right. And that's, I think, what James is thinking of doing. He'll stay there. She keeps saying there's other jobs you can do, wink, wink. But, she also probably means it, that there's other stuff that she can make up for him to do for him to stay.
Right.
And,
yeah, that's the one thing she actually talks about when Jeffrey's there. It's like, oh, we can find something for James to do, couldn't we?
I'm sure we could find something else. And and you sort of get that feeling that this is at the very least a couple who, she probably married him because he was rich, and he probably married her because she was beautiful. Right. And they probably don't have a lot going on together. He travels a lot, and he
got himself a trophy wife, basically.
Yeah, and he's thinking, hey, maybe he's sort of like Patrick Swayze in Dirty Dancing with Mo Pressman, the card player. He's like, hey, if I give this kid to give my wife some dance lessons, she'll stay away from me while I'm playing cards.
Right.
And everybody's happy, sort of a thing. So it's getting to me at this point to be obvious that...
Because Jeffrey doesn't seem jealous of James.
No, he just seems kind of oblivious. And when he's talking to James, he actually seems pretty affable, even though, James just had sex with his wife in his car.
Right. Yes.
Which then Malcolm is watching that, which is just weird. So at this point, I'm pretty sure something is up with Malcolm.
Well, I think Malcolm was watching because he's just like, oh, excellent. This is all coming to plan.
It is all coming together the way we planned it.
Yes. And I love it when a plan comes together.
Dun, 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 dun. Anyway, so I think, at this point, I'm starting to think, all right, something's not right with these people. This is probably not brother and sister.
Right.
Because, I've seen everything from A Fish Called Wanda to Tommy Boy. Okay, they're not actually...
Right.
They're not actually brother and sister.
Exactly. So late that night, under a half moon, Evelyn leaves James's bedroom, meets up with Malcolm, who asks her about their boy. Yeah. And she's like, well, he's sound asleep, dreaming of love. And this is where Malcolm and Evelyn kiss and embrace. So it's like, oh, that's how it is in their family.
Yeah, exactly. And so I sort of get the feeling now at this point, and this, and this is one of the big problems I have with this story.
Yes. Is
that there were a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of things that aren't really fleshed out about it. Right. I get the feeling that, okay, first of all, I now know that Evelyn is at that bar trying to find another Malcolm, basically.
Right. Yes.
Either a Patsy or another Malcolm.
Right.
Because I have a feeling that Malcolm was...
Well, Malcolm was obviously too controlling.
Well, he's scary. I mean, that's the thing. When you get in league with somebody to try and kill someone, one of you is going to be really freaking scary.
Right. Well, I think Malcolm's just seeing payday.
Yeah, Malcolm's the scary one in this situation. And when you have... So I get the feeling that in the past, in her past story, she has probably been very lonely in this marriage and wants out. So she
probably had an affair with the chauffeur. Malcolm.
Or she probably found him somewhere and then brought him to Jeffrey and said, "Hey, here's my long lost brother. Let's give him the job. He's just out of jail," or whatever story she gave Jeffrey.
Yeah, right.
But I think that when she first came in with Malcolm, her intentions were the same as they are with James. So, but he's now just like a drunk that isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing, and it's taking too long. So now they need somebody else.
And he's going a little psycho, and
he's going a little psycho. Exactly.
So it's time. So it's probably time to get rid of Malcolm too.
Yeah, that's the thing. And so, and I wonder. And here's another thing that I wonder about this: is Jeffrey actually abusive? Because we don't actually see it.
This is true.
All we hear
is shouting.
All we hear is shouting that James can hear from over the garage.
Right.
So I just wonder, I don't think it's Malcolm, because Malcolm comes into James's room when it's happening. But is it just a fight?
So do you think Malcolm hit Evelyn to give her the black eye?
See, I wonder that. I wonder that because we don't actually see it. And
right. To make it look good.
Is this for James's benefit?
Right.
And it feels like it, and because they try to make Jeffrey, when we actually do talk to Jeffrey, they try to make him out to be such an affable character that it could go either way, because abusive husbands are affable characters to the rest of the world.
Yes.
So it could definitely be that, but it could also be that he is just oblivious and about ready, and just an easy target for the two of them.
But then, I guess the question then would be, where was Jeffrey when Evelyn is making all this racket and acting like there's all this abuse going on?
Well, see, it could have been a fight, and Evelyn could have thrown the vase or whatever made the glass.
Yeah.
And then Malcolm could have punched her. She could have thrown herself into a wall, or
maybe there was an argument, but it wasn't as violent. Yeah. And then Malcolm hit her to sell it to James.
And I wonder if the violence was for James's benefit, because I don't feel like, and like I said, it could go either way, but I don't feel like the story was fleshed out enough that we know.
Right.
Because we don't actually see the violence. And we don't see much of Jeffrey. We don't really get to learn too much of Jeffrey's character. But what we do know is that Malcolm and Evelyn are in cahoots, and that Malcolm is psychotic.
Right.
So
again, this storyline takes the place over like maybe 3 scenes per episode. Mm-hmm. So it's not like they devoted a lot of time to this.
No, they didn't.
Except for that final episode.
Yeah, I think if they were going to, if they could have really fleshed it out.
Yes.
To be a little bit more interesting, because the long and short of it is, I like James. Mm-hmm. I like James. I'm interested in what's happening to him. I want him to be okay. And I think there's definitely more that could have been done with him.
Right.
And this story.
Well, this story is essentially his last storyline in the original series.
Yeah, he's gone after this.
The
only time he's mentioned again is in one of the last few episodes where she gets a postcard.
Right, and then he shows up in Fire Walk With Me, the prequel. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But continuity-wise, we don't learn anything until the return.
Right, and I'm not trying to say that people make up abuse. I'm just trying to say that with these people making everything up, it could go either way.
Yes.
I think the way it's laid out for us, the way it's performed, it could go either way, and we're left questioning.
Yes.
So, and maybe we're supposed to be. I don't know.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, because eventually what happens is, now that the Jaguar is fixed, oh, there's a terrible accident, and Jeffrey's killed in an accident in the Jaguar.
Right.
So they have effectively set James up for being the saboteur.
Yes.
And
this is after, of course, they talked about like letting James stay, and then Jeffrey goes, it's like, well, I guess I'll go off for a drive. See you never.
We're going to talk. We'll talk later when I get back. And anytime anybody says that,
look out.
Yeah. Yes. If anybody says, I'll tell you, it's as soon as it was like,
won't come back from Dead Man's Curve.
It was like when I saw it when we were watching Game of Thrones. Chris had read the first book when we first started watching the show. I did not start reading until after the first season.
Right.
So there's a scene in Game of Thrones where Jon Snow says to Ed Stark, "You've never told me about my mother." And he said, "I'll tell you when we get back."
Yes.
And I looked at Chris and I said, "He's going to die, isn't he?" And Chris said, "Yeah, he is."
Yep. Don't make those promises. It's one of those, like, I'll be right back, and then, in a horror movie, and then they get killed while they're gone.
Any sort of like, "I'll tell you this later," or "I'll tell you when I get," any of that kind of stuff is.
When we get back, we'll talk about this, and which means they're never coming back.
Die. Yeah, somebody's going to die.
Something's going to happen. This conversation will never happen.
Yeah, but they have that little innuendo where he's like, I hear we have a similar love for cars. It's people are kind of looking at each other like, how much does he know?
Yeah.
They've been
shifty eyes.
Shifty eyes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then, but before this happens, Donna is getting with Ed saying, "Hey, have you heard from James? He hasn't been in school for 2 days. I can't get a hold of him. He's nowhere. What am I supposed to do? And where is he?" And he's like, "Oh, he's just he's just
he hit me up for money."
Yeah, and so Donna says, "Okay, I'll take it to him." And
we don't know how she found out where he was.
Ed said there's a bar on 93.
Okay, so maybe she just showed up there waiting for him and hoped that he would show up.
Well, James told Ed to send the money care of Willie's.
Wally's, yeah.
Care of Wally's.
Wally's, yeah.
And so Donna, he says, "Yeah, there's a bar out on 93 that I'm supposed to send money to." So Donna's like, "Okay, I'll take it." So she goes to Wally's, and Evelyn's there. And I'm not quite sure how they strike up their conversation and how she figures it out.
Well, here's what happens. So Donna shows up at Wally's. She orders a coffee. Evelyn's sitting nearby. And then here's Donna ask the bartender about James.
That just seems like so fantastically coincidental.
Yeah. Well, again, they've only got 3 scenes per episode. They have to kind of like get this moving.
And you just want to think, how often is Evelyn at this bar trying to like pick up?
Well, the kind of vibe I got is like that's her escape.
Yeah.
Like she just goes there and drinks because of all of her troubles.
Exactly.
She doesn't want to deal obviously with her husband, but she also doesn't want to deal with Malcolm. So she goes to Wally's
and picks up good-looking biker boys.
Probably.
Yeah.
And or very dumb biker boys.
Yeah.
In the case of James, sweet but dumb. So Evelyn explains about the work that James did for her, and she also tells Donna that, hey, James left the previous day for Mexico.
Oh, okay.
So he's not around anymore. So you might as well go on home.
Go on home, little girl. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, she out and out lies.
Lies.
Yeah. So as James, and then so James is still. She goes home. James is still packing. Because he was getting ready to split finally.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to stick around for any of this stuff.
Right. And he starts getting a conscience about like, this is wrong.
This is wrong. You're married.
Like, okay, maybe you should have figured that out about 3 episodes ago, but okay.
Yeah.
But he got there. And she's like, "Oh, I love you." And then basically she's trying to keep him there. And then all of a sudden the law comes knocking at the door.
Law.
I was like, yeah, exactly. So,
and James figures out that they're setting him up.
It's always the man.
James figures out that they're setting him up, and Evelyn tells him,
"You set me up
about Malcolm. He's not really my brother. He's crazy."
It's like, oh, by the way, James, Jeffrey died in a car accident.
Yeah, by the way,
what?
Yeah, that's why the cops are here, and he died in the car that you fixed.
Yeah. Right.
And so James at least figures that out. And now here was something I was wondering about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that Evelyn really loves James, or she's just saying that to get him to stay?
The vibe you're supposed to get, I think, is that she's conflicted, that she actually has some feelings for James, and she kind of feels bad for him because, and I'll tell you why when we talk about how this all works out. Mm-hmm. But basically, because she kind of
tells
Donna to take James and run.
Yeah, and she tells James, go find that girl that loves you.
Yeah, exactly. So she does kind of come to care about him, or at least maybe she feels guilty about what she did to him.
That's the thing. I get the feeling that Malcolm is the psycho one, and she's just
Yeah.
She feels I started leaning towards that the abuse is actually real. That she just feels trapped and has no idea what to do.
Yeah. Or maybe just that Malcolm's pressuring her at this point.
Yeah.
So at this point, though, Evelyn tells James that, oh, by the way, Malcolm's not my brother. And so you better run. You better hide. And so he takes off. Guess who's outside? It's Donna.
How the hell?
Just happens to be outside.
How the hell does Donna find him?
Well, probably because she talked to Evelyn and kind of figured that maybe that's where she figured it out. Because they're probably talking to the other, like the bartender or something, asked where Evelyn lived. I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's the.
But we don't know. We have to kind of piece it together in our heads because we're not told how she found where
she followed Evelyn home. I don't quite know, but it's like
we don't know. Yeah.
How does Donna find them? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, it's kind of like a lost plot point, really.
Yeah, I think that's another one of the sort of like hanging questions. Like, how does this happen?
So Donna grabs James and they run, and then
Donna
we come
and James
to the fight
again, running in the woods away from the police.
Yeah, the popo, and so in the final episode, Slaves and Masters. And by the way, this episode was directed by Diane Keaton. Yes, Diane Keaton,
who was a fantastic director, by the way.
Yes, but I just thought it was interesting because to have someone that notable directing a Twin Peaks episode.
I know, it's
awesome.
Cool. You know, she directed the "Heaven Is a Place on Earth" video by Belinda Carlisle.
I did not know that.
She did. Yep.
Do you know what that's worth?
Ooh, baby.
Think about that. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah, she also directed a sort of documentary called Heaven about stories about people who feel they've seen heaven or what they expect it to be, that kind of thing. So she's got a real heaven plot going on with her.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with the afterlife, I guess.
I guess so.
That's all right.
Well, they say in heaven, love comes first.
But heaven's a place called Earth. Yeah.
Come on. Rock and roll thing. Put the Go-Go's in, damn it.
Yeah, seriously, right?
Yeah.
So in this final episode, Malcolm and Evelyn speak to the police about James, point the finger at James. Oh. Yeah, it's like, oh, he's just this guy who showed up and
he just showed up and was working.
He fixed our car. Like said, he could fix our car. We don't know who he is, and he could be kind of psycho for all we know.
Mm-hmm.
And so they really sell it. Donna and James would go back to Wally's because, hey, there's nowhere else in this town to go.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one place.
It's like it's either the Marsh home or Wally's. That's it. And James says
has a brilliant plan of let's go back. We'll see if we can get her to tell the truth.
Yeah, like she'll tell the police that I didn't do it, right? Right.
Uh-huh. And then Donna figures out what's been going on between James and Evelyn. And Donna's like, you know what? Screw this. I'm calling your uncle. We're calling the cops.
Screw you guys. I'm calling it.
We need some help. We need someone to help us. Donna says, we can't get out of this on our own. We need some help.
Yeah, Donna at this point should have been slapping James upside the face going, you idiot. What did you do?
What is the matter with you?
Yes, exactly.
So
Donna ends up, after calling Ed, she confronts Evelyn at the hideout, Wally's hideout, gets all up in her grill, asks why she framed James for murder. And then all of a sudden, Malcolm shows up.
Yep.
And threatens Donna, like, stay out of it.
Yeah, this is not your concern, little girl.
Exactly.
And
so James, meanwhile, goes back to the Marsh home because, hey, let's go to the scene of the crime, right?
Yeah, because the cops are looking for me, so let's go there.
Yeah, they'll never think to look for me at the Marsh home.
Yeah, seriously. Well, this I thought was funny, where Malcolm is explaining to the cops what kind of car it is, and that's when the cop tries to spell Jaguar with a W, which I think is hilarious.
Right.
That's Jaguar, that's Jagw.
Which shows you the level of police detective in this town.
Yeah, Twin Peaks is pretty much the only town with an even remotely competent police force.
Sheriff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because we remember old Sheriff Cable, don't we?
Mm-hmm. We got a phone.
Got a little ring.
Yep.
Yes. Nice.
Well, and even and this is something we'll talk about in another one of our episodes, but when Denise Bryson comes to town, he's like, driving in, Sheriff, I don't know how you even have crime here at all. I thought you'd be like chasing down loose dogs. Like, there's nothing going on there.
That's funny. That's another thing we got to talk about because of Denise Bryson. That's
so great.
Yeah, David Duchovny. So we're gonna have to talk about that stuff, obviously.
Yep.
James asked Evelyn why she framed him. She says, "Well, I did it for the money." Well, duh. And also because she was afraid. And then this is where she says that she had genuine feelings for James, which apparently appears to be mutual because they end up kissing again. So James has learned absolutely nothing at this point.
He's learned absolutely nothing. And again, this is where we start realizing, okay, well, maybe, that yes, the abuse is real.
Yes.
And
he almost deserves what he gets in this episode.
She's just she's feeling trapped and has no idea what to do and is willing to sacrifice anything or anybody to get out.
Yeah.
So in the middle of this argument.
Yes. Well, no, this is where they're kissing, and then Malcolm comes by, and then takes the old blackjack, whack him
in the head.
Yep.
And
knocks him out. Tells Evelyn that, hey, okay, we'll just kill James, and then we'll figure out a story to go with this, make this happen.
And they're going to have to kill Donna now too, because Donna has been listening to this whole plan.
Exactly. So Malcolm tries to convince Evelyn to get her prints on the gun.
Yeah.
And
he's like, just your prints, I'll shoot him. Just put your hand on this gun so there's prints on there.
Yeah, so, I'll just kill James. And then Donna shows up at this point, pleading for James's life. Yeah, please don't kill him.
Why not?
I know he's stupid, but I love him.
She's pleading to Evelyn, like, what the hell is wrong with you, lady?
Yeah. Completely ignoring Malcolm at this point, really. Yep. And it's like, he's the guy you have to worry about. So Malcolm demands the gun from Evelyn, but Evelyn doesn't give it to him.
Nope.
She kind of backs away, and then she seems pretty unsure of herself, and then decides, okay, bam, I'm shooting. She shoots Malcolm.
She makes the right decision. It's like the first time in this entire plot line that anybody makes the right decision.
Right. And it wasn't James, for sure.
No, of course it wasn't James.
And so, but at this point, Evelyn kind of checks out a little bit. And she starts muttering to herself. She starts coming up with right there the alibi.
Yeah, exactly. That he was
like he came at me, and I was just defending myself, or something like that.
He's the one that actually killed Jeffrey, and then he was coming for me, and I did what I had to do. So,
and that's kind of where the storyline, for the most part, ends.
Yeah, it kind of peters out. We see James and Donna going on a picnic together, and
that's in The Condemned Woman, which is kind of like an aftermath.
Yeah, and he's basically saying that, he's in the clear, but there's going to be a trial for Evelyn, and he'll be a witness in the trial. So he's got to stay kind of close by to whatever town that was.
Right.
And be in the...
But he does promise that he's going to come back to Twin Peaks. He says, she asked him to come back with her, and he talks about why. But he also says that it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. So he's got to hit the road again. And Donna says, don't worry about me. I just want to be part of something good. And you'll go out and you'll see things and you'll have adventures, and then you'll come back and I'll be waiting for you. Oops.
Yeah.
None of that happens.
No, because he's like he figures, well, there's another town I could go to get mixed up with some other woman that wants to kill her husband.
Yeah, seriously, I can make more bad decisions. So
yeah, exactly.
And that's
so.
We don't actually know where James has been.
Right.
We know he does wind up back in Twin Peaks, but we don't know.
Well, we do. It's not until we get the final dossier book.
Yeah.
All the years later about what happened with James after that point.
Exactly. And
how that just sitting down next to Evelyn in the bar, really screwed his life up for a good long while.
For a long time. And I think one of the things that's so tragic about the James story is the James and Donna story. Because James and Donna could have been these really good things in each other's lives. And I'm not a big fan of Donna. But
right.
They still could have had this good thing with each other. And it gets totally screwed up. And so in the return, when James is at the Roadhouse singing Just You, I'm never sure, is he singing that with memories of Laura, or is he singing that with memories of Donna?
Maybe both.
And that's what, I wonder sometimes if he comes back to Twin Peaks wondering if Donna is still going to be there. Donna's on her third divorce in her failed modeling career. And
I would kind of think more Donna, because Donna was the one who was singing it with him, with Maddie.
Yeah, and see, that's what I wonder, and and that makes it so sad that they should have been together, and they both screwed it. They just screwed it up. And right. I feel, and like I said at the beginning when we first started talking, is I actually do feel bad for Donna in this episode, because James is just completely taking her for granted and discounting how important she could be in his life. He's all with the, everything I touch goes bad. There was Laura, and then there was Maddie, and then and so he leaves, and then he has this little thing with Evelyn, and just sort of not even really considering Donna, when
right.
At this point in her life, Donna can still be, Donna's a little messed up with her whole, like, Laura's sunglasses crap that she pulls, and
yes.
Don't even get me started on Harold.
I was going to say, see, that says a lot that you're willing to kind of feel bad for her after everything that she did to Harold.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like James is totally discounting her importance in his life. And I think if he had spent his energy trying to make something good with Donna, and they're sort of perfect together. He might be, he might be the biker kid with the no good mom, but he's still a really sweet guy. He's a good-hearted, sweet person. And for the most part, Donna is too. I think Donna went a little crazy trying to figure out what was wrong with Laura, or what happened to Laura. And I think she did things that she shouldn't have done, because she was willing to do anything to find out who killed her best friend. And
so you chalk it more up to obsession of trying to figure out who killed Laura.
Right. I think I chalk it up to obsession. I chalk it up to
compulsion or whatever.
Yeah, and I chalk it up to them just being kind of young and not very bright, because they haven't experienced anything. Donna doesn't know how to deal with psychologically damaged people, which is why what happens with Harold happens. Right. I would think that if she had a little bit more compassion, she wouldn't use them to her advantage, but I do think she is really just at her wit's end trying to figure out what happened to Laura. And I think that makes Donna an extremely selfish person, but I'm one of those people that differentiates a selfish person from a bad person.
Okay.
Because I think a selfish person is out for themselves, whereas a bad person is out to get you.
Oh.
And and a lot of people sort of see it as the same thing, that if you're out for yourself, you're kind of out to get other people because you don't care about other people. But I would rather be not considered than someone being actively out to get me. I'd rather someone not be thinking of me at all. And so I do make that differentiation. But, and like I said, I still don't like Donna for
X reasons.
Because some of her bad choices really do affect a lot of people.
Right.
It affects Dr. Jacoby, and it affects, Dr. Jacoby has a heart attack because of her, and Harold dies because of her.
So do you think the storyline made Donna more sympathetic?
I think it made Donna more sympathetic, but I think part of why it makes Donna more sympathetic is because you realize, regardless of how I feel about Donna, I like James. And James is so much more... there's so much more for James with Donna than without Donna.
Right.
And the fact that he just completely discounts her importance in his life and takes her for granted. And
so you think they would have been better off had they stayed together?
I think they would have been better off together. I really, really do.
Okay.
Because,
well, considering what happened to both of them, there's a good argument for that.
Yeah, considering what happened to both of them. And the whole time James is talking about, everything I touch goes bad, he's completely not thinking about Donna. That is one thing that he's doing that can go, not only she loves him, she's, they're sweet together, they're cute together. Her parents like him. Ed likes Donna. I mean, this could be a good thing for both of them. Maybe it could have been, if she still wanted to be a model, he could have gone to New York with her.
Right.
He could have started his own line of bike shops. I don't know. I mean, there are things that they could have done together, but I think that they're definitely better together than apart, because Donna, after he leaves, Donna kind of doesn't know what to do. I mean, of course, Donna's still in high school. But or is she? Is everybody still in high school? Because that's what I don't get.
we don't know. They never tell us
in the series. Because first of all, we don't ever see anybody graduate.
No. It's just like once we got past the first season, school just went right out the window. Right out the window,
because we know it's February when Laura dies.
Right. So they should still be in school.
There's still a few months of school left, but I'm not sure how much time has really gone by. But everybody we know who's in school, doesn't go to school anymore. Like, Donna starts working for her father because her father goes crazy. Not Donna. Audrey starts working for her father because her father goes insane. Bobby Briggs starts trying to work for Benjamin Horne because he needs money.
It's like they had an off-screen graduation.
It's like there was an off-screen graduation that nobody talked about. And then Donna just sort of... all right, this little note is starting to itch. I had to take it off. I still have the... notes for the heart monitor on me. I just came home from the ER and fell asleep, so I still need to take a shower.
Rip.
And Donna's just kind of adrift,
Yeah.
Like nobody's looking at college brochures. Nobody's talking about backpacking through Europe. Everybody's just kind of not in school. That's like the only thing that is going on is that they're not in school.
Yeah.
So.
Probably the only one that's actually thinking about college is Harriet.
Yeah, Harriet is working on her music scholarship for sure.
Right.
And poor Gersten. I don't even talk about Gersten.
That's another road we could go down.
That's another one. Yeah.
Bad decisions.
So Donna's kind of left adrift. There's really not a good storyline for her.
Which is probably why she ends up getting sucked into the Miss Twin Peaks pageant.
Well, there's the gathering of angels. The three angels get together and try and figure out what's going on, and they get sucked into the Wyndham Earle, Leah Johnson situation. But it just makes me sad for Donna that James just discounts her so much, when it would have been better for Donna and better for James if he had really just seen what was right in front of him, seen the one good thing in his life that was right in front of him that he just kind of took for granted.
Well, I think at this stage in their lives, I think they both lack the maturity.
Oh, for sure.
To be self-aware enough to realize what the other person was feeling. I
think so too, and
what they needed.
And they're both really damaged from everything that's been going on, because not only did their James's girlfriend and Donna's best friend was murdered, and they're trying to figure it out, and bad things happen.
If you think about it, that's the basis for their relationship is Laura's death. So they got together over Laura dying. Yeah,
and Donna does say that all this time it was we were the ones actually falling in love. So it sort of sounds like they were setting up for them to sort of be meant for each other. And, I kind of feel that could have been a cute love story, a good love story that just kind of fizzled and kind of went nowhere.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of sad for them. And it's sad because, and I will say, as much as I don't like how James is treating Donna, I like James. I think that, James is, I don't know, James, I guess, comes by his troubles a little more honestly, whereas I think Donna's making trouble for herself more than anything.
Right.
With trying to bamboozle Howard and trying to bamboozle Doc Hayward. I mean, she has these plans that really hurt people. Now, nothing they did they didn't do anything to hurt Maddie, and they couldn't have saved her. Bob had his sights on Maddie, and that there was nothing they could have done. But all they see is that everybody around them is getting hurt with them trying to, do the right thing. So I think they're grieving, they're in pain, and there's all kinds of trauma going on that they have to deal with.
Yep.
And I think they could have maybe gotten through it a little better if they stuck together.
Yep. Road's not taken.
Yeah.
Well, on that cheery note.
Yep.
Do you have a rating for all this storyline?
Oh, for the James Hurley saga?
Yeah, for the James Hurley saga.
Yeah.
This is a tough one, isn't it?
I'm going to have to say this one probably gets, 5 out of 10 underage beers for me. And the reason I'm rating it so low is, and I'm not rating it like a 0 or a 1 or anything like that, because I do like James. I did like the character of James. I wanted good things for him. I didn't want bad things for James. I think that this story was a little bit haphazardly put together. Like we said, it was just kind of, there was some backstory that we could have known. There were some details we could have known a little bit better.
Right.
And I can't decide if it was wooden acting or bad script writing. And I'm leaning more towards wooden acting. Well, I don't necessarily think it was bad script writing. I just think it was thrown together too much.
Well, for most of the part, the writers of the storyline were Harley Peyton and Robert Engels.
See, and that's the thing. That's why I don't want to think it's bad script writing.
And Scott Frost, and then But for the most part, this is written by Harley Peyton and Robert Engels. So it's not like they're not bad writers.
No, they're not bad writers. It's not the world's greatest dialogue, and like I said, I think there could have been a more fleshed out story with this. But again, I think they were packing too many things.
Yeah, but maybe it's just that they weren't able to devote more the time the storyline needed.
Right, and what was going on
per episode. Yeah,
and as much as I like James, I like Cooper more.
Yes. Well, that's why they were kind of a rush to get back to the Cooper stuff.
Yeah, and I'm more interested in what's going on with Cooper. I'm more interested in those other characters. Now, I will say that there's another storyline running through here that I was perfectly happy fast-forwarding through, and that's Dick Tremaine and Little Mickey.
Yeah, that's
very annoying. But again, I like Andy and Lucy, so I want to know that things are going to be okay with them. Another storyline that I really don't care about is Lana and the Milford brothers.
Right.
It eventually goes somewhere with the
Lana killing Dougie and all that. Yeah.
But it's kind of it's sort of like, oh my God, is Cooper going to lose his job or what? Yeah. And also the Josie, Andrew Packard, Thomas Eckhart series storyline is a lot more interesting. It's a little more intricate. The villains are more interesting.
Right. There's the whole thing with Jonathan, and yes, it's more interesting to watch.
Dan O'Hurley, I absolutely adore.
Yeah. And
I think he makes a great...
Which takes us back to our RoboCop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think he makes a great villain. And sort of, I think he's more of a, like, what the hell is going on here with Josie? And we don't know, when he first comes to town, we don't quite know yet what's up with her, but we're starting to figure out that something's not right. And then we see Cooper pulling hairs out of her vicuna coat and looking at the gloves, and we're starting, maybe she shot Cooper.
Well, Albert comes in and starts like piecing it together, and
and I would much rather deal with that. We also have, we also have Ernie and trying to get Jean Renault, Denise Bryson, all that stuff.
And that's all this stuff with the Dead Dog Farm, yes.
Dead Dog Farm, and as as bizarre as the Nadine Hurley stuff is, it's funny.
Yes.
Not only is she it's kind of a funny situation, but she's beating up Mike, which is great. And
that never gets old.
And then you have the promise of maybe Ed and Norma, which I'm way more interested in. I feel like Ed and Norma are the cautionary tale And Donna and James just became another Ed and Norma, but without the happy ending.
Yeah. So do you think Donna and James were essentially the victim of there just being too many other storylines that we cared more about?
I think that was part of it. I think they were trying to shove too many storylines in because it was like, okay, well, our main storyline's gone. Let's throw everything we have. And of course,
yeah, they were kind of. I think they almost
storyline. And
yeah.
So
it almost felt like they were scrambling at this point.
I don't even know if they were scrambling. I just think they were throwing everything they had to see what would stick.
Right.
And so, but I also, so it might just be just bad dialogue or haphazard dialogue or wooden acting. But like I said, I couldn't quite tell what was real or not. Like, did Evelyn actually love James Hurley? Or was she lying to get him to stay? Or, what was the deal? Like, what was the deal? Like I said, I wasn't convinced that, because I knew, when I watched it this time, I knew, but when I saw it the first time, I was like, that's not really her brother, is it? It's just, I don't know why, I was suspicious of it from the very beginning. And so that's when I started thinking, like, okay, is anything she says real? Like, does she really love James? Is she really being abused? Like, what is actually going on here with this character? And I don't know if that was like a wooden performance or you could only do so much with the dialogue you had.
Or maybe a bit of both.
It could be a bit of both, yeah. It just wasn't...
little column A, little column B.
Yeah, and at the very end of it, it's not what I wanted for James. I didn't want James to have yet another traumatic relationship. He's like Cooper. Like, all of his relationships are traumatic.
Pretty much. And you think they would bond over that? Yeah,
they could probably have a couple of beers and oh, you think that's crazy? I had sex with my first wife, and then he killed her and tried to stab her. So...
You win. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then, poor Cooper's, fellatio fiasco.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the stuff we talked about when we did the autobiography of Dale Cooper.
Mm-hmm, My Life, My Tapes.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's just not what I wanted for James. And it's hard for me to watch somebody talk about how bad things are for them when they have something good right in front of them. And that's kind of what James was doing.
It's just frustrating. Yes.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. And I think they could have grown up together and really really been able to make each other happy in a way that for sure James hasn't been happy before in his life. And I don't know if Donna has had happy, nobody has happy relationships in Twin Peaks, Her boyfriend, Mike, Mr. Bonehead boyfriend. So it's not like that was a fun time for her.
This is true.
Yeah.
Everybody ended up miserable. Look how long it took for Big Ed and Norma to get their act together.
Dude, that took 40 freaking years.
Yep. I think maybe Andy and Lucy were probably
Andy and Lucy are the happiest couple in Twin Peaks, for sure.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah. And maybe the Briggses.
Oh yeah, good point.
I mean,
at least until Garland died, but yeah.
Until Garland dies, but yeah, I mean, when the scene where he comes home.
Yes, you're right.
He so passionately kisses her. I mean, which is yes. Don Davis.
There was love there. There was love there. Yeah.
He's great. He's great at Robert. I'd like you to put out the cigarette and then make me a cocktail. I mean, he's obviously still the military dad, but he kisses her with such passion. He's missed her so much.
Right. And you get this vibe that he was gone for so long.
Yeah, and he was gone 2 days, but he's like it felt longer than that. And he's a military man and he can only do what he knows, but he knows he loves her. Right. And even the Haywards have a little bit of they run into some trouble.
Yeah, they were going good until about the last few episodes.
So freaking Benjamin Horne comes in and ruins everything.
It's always been screwing things up.
Benjamin Horne, yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. Well, Heidi and her knockwurst husband might have a nice time of it. But yeah, probably Andy and Lucy, and even they had their rocky parts with with Dick.
But compared to everybody else, they're like the golden couple.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just, they could have, I don't know. I think
they had a kid, they raised it, maybe went off and watched way too many Marlon Brando films. But
God.
Yeah. So my rating for this, is a little bit more generous. I had a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Broken down 1948 Jags.
Nice.
So yeah.
And yeah, I just
so just a little bit more, but kind of in the general area where you were.
Yeah.
It's just it's just not what we wanted from Twin Peaks. This storyline, obviously.
No, and it
wasn't up just.
Yeah, and I think, and I remember we talked about this last episode, and I said I wonder if I would dislike it so much, and I don't. I think that seeing it a second time, I'm not as, oh my God, get on with it, like I was when I originally watched it. Now I'm like, James, why do you keep making bad decisions? It's I dislike it for a different reason, and I dislike it for more character-driven reasons than I do for.
Maybe when you originally watched it, you were angry at Donna for driving James away, but now you're kind of like
James away though. That's the thing. I never thought of that.
But now you really think, okay, James, you're an idiot. This is all your fault.
James was just not sort of looking at it. I think back then I was so mad at Donna, like I didn't care what happened to her.
Yeah.
But when because I'm sorry, Donna killed a guy. If you ask me, Donna killed a guy.
Donna killed a guy.
That's Bobby. That's Mike. Anyway, but now, I do have the hindsight being 2020, and I know that Donna does not fare well, and I can just and I'm older, and I can see relationship pitfalls in a way I couldn't when I was 15 when I first saw this.
Yeah. Obviously coming at it from a different perspective in life.
Exactly. So I can see them just making mistakes with each other when they could be so good for each other.
Yes.
And so I think this was hard. I don't like the storyline because it's hard, not because it's stupid.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's like a C+ story because of how it's not fleshed out the way I'd like it to be.
Right.
But
and again, I think for me, because I watched this live, and for me, it felt like it just dragged on because of all those gaps in the network, airing new episodes. So this thing could have been wrapped up in just over a month. It takes 2 months. It's like twice as long as it should have.
Exactly. And then, like I said, we have the specter of Wyndham Earle coming in.
Yeah, it's just like I want to get to that story.
And he was fascinating. I thought he was fascinating.
Right.
And Leo's okay. Like, what the hell is that going to do? Like,
yes,
that's terrifying.
Right.
That Leo is now awake and has been watching all of this stuff and can get back at everybody. So yeah, I mean, the fact that Leo woke up is terrifying.
Frank and Leo,
yeah.
Yeah. So the big question now, what are we going to talk about next time on Ghostwood?
Dead Dog Farm.
You want to do the Dead Dog Farm saga?
I want to do Dead Dog Farm because that gets us Denise Bryson that talks about Cooper.
Yes. Yeah, I think we did.
Suspension and his subsequent hiring at the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department. So. Yeah,
I think that we need a good palate cleanser after the James Hurley saga, and I think you're right. I think the Dead Dog Farm saga is definitely the way to go.
I think that's a good way to go.
Because we obviously got to deal with Jean Reno, that whole thing, and
Yep.
It's good. All right, so we'll do that next time. So we'll kind of take some of these episodes that we just discussed, but we'll focus on the other storylines, the Dead Dog Farm stuff with Cooper, where he gets suspended, loses his badge temporarily, and is forced to don red plaid as a result.
Yeah, he's not
because he goes native, and of course it's Twin Peaks, so you got to get plaid, right?
Yeah,
it's all about the plaid.
Well, I think what's happening is you have all these storylines coming in at you that eventually just sort of pinpoint and become Wyndham Earle.
Yes.
So if we can talk about all those storylines and how they intersect with each other, we get Dead Dog Farm, we get Andrew Packard,
Major Briggs' disappearance,
and Josie and Major Briggs. So I mean, if we discuss all of that, we can eventually get to Wyndham Earle and just go full steam ahead on Wyndham Earle.
Yeah. I do want to talk about Josie's that episode, I want to talk about that in full because
sure, yeah, that's
where you got into Twin Peaks, and I think that would be great to run through that with you.
I would love to, and it's before the cancellation. It's the episode before the cancellation, so we can talk about how they left that. And what would have happened if it had never come back? Like what would we have been left with? But
think about that whole Wyndham Earl, all those Wyndham Earl episodes we wouldn't have got.
Wouldn't have had, yeah. But we can talk about the whole Andrew Packard saga, which shows Andrew being alive, Josie,
I'm alive.
Hello, honey. You'll never believe what happened to me today. And Catherine being alive and basically telling Josie, I know you were trying to screw me, and now I have the upper hand, so, you're going to serve me dinner in a little maid costume.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Thomas Eckhart coming to town, and what's her name? I can't think of her name right now.
Jones.
Yeah. So we can talk about that as well. And then that just leads right into...
Brenda Strong,
yes. But what happens with Josie, I think, opens the lodge a little bit more.
Right.
So that's when we start getting into.
Yeah. So eventually, all this we will converge back into the really good stuff.
Yep.
As we, but we thought this would be a much, doing it this way kind of addresses a lot because there was this lull after the Laura Palmer mystery wrapped up for a good 3-4 episodes.
Yeah, like I said, until things
start. But I mean, things felt a little disjointed. I think.
Yeah, like I said, I think they threw everything they had at it to see what would stick.
And they were, and I don't think they got the Wyndham Earl storyline rolling fast enough. Like it should have kicked into gear a little, maybe a couple episodes sooner.
Yeah, well, I think that they're sort of doing the Twin Peaks writer version of going out in the woods and throwing rocks at bottles, and they missed a lot of bottles, but they hit a couple of them. They hit a couple of bottles.
Yeah.
And the problem was that they still had to wrap up the stories that they missed.
Yeah.
And some of
Unfortunately, I think the James Hurley saga was the one that bounced off Andy's head.
Only blood squirted out. Not a mark on it. Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah. Well, either that one or Dick Tremaine and Little Mickey, which I don't even want to talk about.
Can't hurt what you can't feel, right, Andy?
Exactly. Yeah, Dick Tremaine gets the essentially he gets a little brother, like Big Brother's.
Yes.
The Big Brother program.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so
to try,
we don't need to talk the Little Nicky saga.
Yeah, to try and act like a good father and sort of get back at Andy, and it's just not even worth talking about.
No, it's not. No. The less said about that storyline, the better.
Yeah,
I think
so too.
All right. Okay. So everybody, come on back. We're going to talk the Dead Dog Farm saga.
Dog Farm.
So we'll do that. So that would be cool. Otherwise, Xan, where can they reach you on the interwebs? Before I get into our Ghostwood information.
I am on the Twitters and on the Instagrams as Udinax19, and on the Facebooks as Xan Sprouse.
Excellent.
What about you, Charles?
Well, first, Ghostwood. If you want to reach us, you want to talk to us, drop us a line. What you think? Maybe, hey, what you thought about the James Hurley saga, or are we completely off base here, or what? Drop us a line there. Let us know. Or the Dead Dog Farm saga. What are you looking forward about that? Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. So you can do that at ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com. The Gmail. Ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com. Or you reach us on the Twitter at GhostwoodCast. We'd love to hear from you there. Please like and follow us there. Also, you can reach us on our Facebook, Ghostwood the Twin Peaks Podcast. Hey, go figure. That's the name of our Facebook page.
We like to keep it simple.
Yeah. No, it's funny how we just try to be synchronous about that.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure. Synergy, hey? So check us out there. Otherwise, for me, you can reach me at Charles Skaggs on Twitter or at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram. Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. or my blog geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot. We're talking about all things we talk about here on Ghostwood, like Twin Peaks or David Lynch or maybe some Dune news or what have you. So anything cool that catches my interest. News of my other podcasts I do for Southgate Media, including Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where we're currently talking some David Tennant. Probably we'll go back and talk some Tom Baker here not too long from now. So we'll be doing that. Lots of rotating guest hosts on that as we kind of try to fill in for Karen, who's out. Also, Titan Talk, the Titans podcast they do with Jesse Jackson, where we talk about, and right now we're talking about the Doom Patrol series that's on DC Universe, and it's really, really good.
Is it really good? I've heard good things.
It's really good. Last Friday was a great day because Doom Patrol debuted on DC Universe and Umbrella Academy debuted on Netflix.
I've heard good things about both.
And that's really good too. So if you like one, you probably would like the other a lot.
Nice.
And Alan Tudyk from Firefly and all kinds of other cool sci-fi stuff. He's on Doom Patrol. He plays the supervillain Mr. Nobody.
Nice.
And he's really good. And Timothy Dalton is great as the chief, and Brendan Fraser is surprisingly sympathetic as Robot Man, Cliff Steele.
Brendan Fraser's good.
Tragic here. He's really, he's a great vocal actor. I'm discovering. Matt Bomer is good. April Bowlby's amazing as Rita Farr, Elastigirl. Very tragic character as well. So check out that, and then come and listen to us on Titan Talk. We'd definitely appreciate it. So highly recommended by me.
That's a good plan.
Yep. Otherwise, come on back for Ghostwood episode 52 as we talk the Dead Dog Farm saga. I can't wait to talk about this one because I really like this storyline. I thought it was pretty good, and it was kind of cool to see Cooper out of the black suit for a change.
Yep. I love how Cooper can't. It's like for Cooper, the black suit is the FBI, so he can't, in good conscience, wear the black suit.
Yes. Yeah, but he ends up becoming Harry's deputy, which is kind of interesting. Yep. So he's gone from the guy in charge to now he's Harry's deputy, but he's still kind of in charge regardless.
He's still pretty. He's got a little more on the ball with this. Don't go to Sam.
Yeah, don't go to Sam. But so I can't wait to talk about this one with you. This is definitely a good palate cleanser.
I think so.
So, all right. So, Xan, you go get some rest. I think you need it.
I'm gonna go take the nodes off and get into bed.
That would probably be a good idea. Yep. And everybody, come on back. Episode 52. We're going to talk Dead Dog Farm. It's going to be good. Come on back. We'll see you right here next time. Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.